Hey, Nic Novicki, and this is LA Year One. So my first year in LA, I came out here and was just crashing with friends on a couch, back and forth from New York. I was thinking about moving out here, and we ultimately started a production company, but I came out here with no money. My friends that I started a production company with all had jobs. I had nothing. I was just trying to grind out as a comedian and a content producer. And so literally they had a giant closet in their apartment, and you just open up the door and there was enough space for a bed. So I was literally living in a closet my first year in LA. And ultimately I was just focusing full time on doing stand-up. I didn't know anybody. This is the first time I was on the West Coast. I'm from New Haven, Connecticut. Went to school in Philly, lived in New York, so I knew, tri-state area, East Coast. I came out here knowing nobody with very little money and was just trying to grind it out, doing stand-up all the time at night, trying to write web series, trying to, putting pretty much all my money into creating content. But to be honest, it was pretty tough. I wasn't eating steak and I didn't have a lot of money. And so moving out here initially too, I was making more money on the East Coast. I had less contacts out here. So it took me a while to start actually making money. Everything I was doing was pretty much putting the little money I had, and really the only other resource that I was able to bring to the table was me as a producer, or being able to be creative about, trading services. But I feel like that first year, it was that moment where you're kind of walking around on the street. It's like that LA Confidential, where it's kind of like LA Noir, you're walking around by yourself. I didn't have a car. I'd take the bus everywhere to do shows, which taking the bus in LA is okay, but really more during the day. When you're taking the bus at night, it's not like New York public transit. Certainly in the mid-2000s, the transit's gotten way better, the subway system. But when you didn't have a car then, there was no Uber, there was no Lyft. I would have comedians I just met drive me places. And so really the times have changed a lot. And it was a lot harder to produce your own content in the mid-2000s. YouTube just started, but it was brand new. When you were shooting, you didn't have an iPhone that you could just literally film with. You had to shoot on mini DV tape. And then I'm not really a technical person, so I would have other people kind of help transcribe for me all of and then try to get that into Final Cut. So a lot of it was just, me kind of grinding out, and I used my group of comedians that I was working with, and we would do stuff, whether we were getting paid or not. We were constantly in production and helping each other out. And that mentality, really looking back, I was so broke. I was literally, even from when I moved from out of the closet to like sharing a room with somebody, we were living month to month, like literally no money. And I was still putting money into content. So now, looking back at that, it's kind of crazy, because it's harder. The older you get, the more you're like, I better save a little, and I got to do that, and you want nicer things, or But at that time, for me, I was really just kind of living paycheck to paycheck for quite a while. And when you're in the entertainment industry, it's not like you're living a weekly paycheck. I was getting paid, and then a couple months later, I'd get my next gig. So I had to be really good and clever at eating burritos or tacos, or really making everything last, because I knew that it was important for me to be creating my own content, and especially for myself. When I moved out here, it wasn't like I had no experience. I had already been on The Sopranos. I think I was 24 when I moved out here, and I had maybe 25, but I had my own. I had already worked. I had done a couple spots on SNL, little like under 5 roles. Was on The Sopranos, some sketch comedy shows. But I came out here, and everybody's credits were like, it was like the scroll from the 10 Commandments. And so what I thought I was like a big fish, in New York, because I had, especially amongst the little people, I had a pretty decent resume. I came out here and people had been working way longer. And so even in the little people community, it was really tough to get these jobs. So a lot of it for the first couple years was about persistence and staying grounded when I didn't get those opportunities. And I'd be lying if I said that that's still not part of a daily life in the entertainment industry. You're always going to be excited about your opportunities and also frustrated that you don't get certain opportunities. And the longer you've been in the business, the more giants that you end up knowing, not just meeting, but actually having a relationship with people that are now like, you used to do open mics and stand up with them, and now they're, selling out arenas. So you see others around you that are doing so well. And it's important to really kind of not get bitter or be upset by other people's success, but to know that, hey, these are people that we've been on the same plane together, and to be excited for them, and then just focus on what more can you do for yourself. And not only what more can you do for yourself, but what more can you do for others. See, for myself, I've always been creating my own content. And, that's led to a lot of work for me. I've been in 50 TV shows and movies. I've, continued to work. I've gotten a chance to work with Scorsese, the Farley brothers, a lot of pretty big actors, Emmy nominees, Oscar nominees. But a lot of that's come from me producing my own content. And about 7 years ago, I was looking around, I was like, why aren't more people with disabilities creating their own content? So I created the Disability Film Challenge, which is a weekend film competition where over the course of a weekend, participants write, shoot, edit, and submit a 3 to 5 minute film that has somebody with a disability in front of or behind the camera. And I was like, man, this is gonna be a fun way to get some cool films out there with people with disabilities. We're 25% of the population, but in less than 3% of film and TV shows. And we're gonna get some awesome films, and it's just gonna be a fun thing I do one time. And I did it, and it was unbelievable. The films that came out of it and how much it meant to other people with disabilities that were tuning in and not ever really seeing themselves authentically represented. So I did it again, and then it grew. And then it grew again. And then I partnered with Easter Seals, which is the nation's largest disability services organization. And it just really blew up. So now we're in year 7, and oddly, this has kind of become like a major part of my life. I'm still doing stand-up all the time, still producing, still writing, still acting. But I really am working on this thing that honestly makes me feel better than anything I've ever done before, because I know that I'm helping other people achieve their dreams, get further in the business, and ultimately show a more inclusive, represented, group of America, because a lot of times people with disabilities aren't getting a seat at the table. They're not getting featured in front of the camera. And when they are, it's all about their disability. And a lot of times it's with a more dramatic approach. Like for me as a little person, I can't tell you how many times I've gone on auditions and honestly booked some TV shows and some things where it's been like so focused about me not being able to reach a light switch or something in a grocery store, or things that I'm like, on a day-to-day, I'm a little person, my wife's a little person, we never think about these things. We rarely talk about being little. I just find something to stand on. Or if I have to stand on a toilet to get to, wash my hands, I'm gonna do that. But I don't talk about it, and I don't harp on it. So, really, a lot of times, Hollywood likes to do that, because a lot of times in the writer's room and really behind the camera, there's nobody with disabilities. So you're seeing all these writers, these showrunners, these producers, and these network executives that have little to no experience of people with disabilities. So they think, hey, if we're gonna have somebody with a disability, it's gotta be all about that disability. So with the Easter Seals Disability Film Challenge, the cool thing is that we're able to kind of make people tell their story for the first time. And it could just be a romance, it could just be a bank robbery, but they just happen to be wheelchair users, or deaf, or little people, or have cerebral palsy, or Down syndrome, or autism. So, that's kind of what I'm most excited about, what I'm doing. And to be honest, if I were to look back that first year I came out to LA and you saw me now, 13 years ago, if I was able to have me come back and be like, the majority of your time is going to be about you running this Easter Seals Disability Film Challenge. It's a weekend film competition. I would have thought you were crazy. And honestly, first of all, I don't think we had the technology capability to create these a film challenge when I first moved out to LA, because YouTube was just there, but still, like, I mean, Facebook was, none of these, the platforms were barely there, and the DSLR camera technology wasn't there, the editing software wasn't there was no iPhones. So it's kind of crazy how much things have changed from when I first moved out here to now. I'm not even sure what the next wave of technology is going to bring. But the good thing is, I know there's always going to be a place for telling jokes, you know, for stories, for authentic content. And to be honest, I feel like 13, 14 years from now, people with disabilities are still going to be underrepresented. So I'm still going to have a place through my film challenge. No, I mean, I'm so proud of the fact that we have more and more, stories being told, and how it's leading to opportunities for people at networks and studios. So.
That's great. Perfect.
Cool.
Yeah, that's perfect.